Hello, everybody. It's your DBI admin, Magic Paper, and I would like to talk about some stuff right now. And today is 11/14/2024, and I'd like to just talk about the review that you're going to be watching today. So the reason why this is taking me so long is because I have remade it and redone it several times throughout the past couple months. Now, when I didn't have my desk, that was me not actually working on the video. That was me just not doing anything because I didn't want to work on it without a desk because I didn't have any arm space or anything of the like. But I would sit here, do some editing, like I would record and then I would do some editing, and then I didn't like the outcome, so I would re-record and then edit again, and it didn't like how it came out. And this happened for every single segment, and it just really was me trying to be perfect about stuff and maybe getting information right and maybe editing wrong and needing to redo something. And it really set me on a path of self-destruction in a way that kept preventing me from finishing the video. Especially when I lost those 2 hours, which I don't know how many people know about that, but I lost 2 hours of progress because my program crashed and there was no backup. The lack of the backup made me really pressed, and I stopped doing it for like 2 or 3 or 4 days, which was another setback. And then after I redid the progress that I lost, I found out that Vegas Pro has like a whole backup folder for crashed projects, and like deep in the folders, and found it in like several other times of when my shit crashed from other projects unrelated to DBI, and I'm just like, what? I was very, very happy and also very, very upset to see that. I have been putting it off. Part of it is because I have anxiety and my mental state when working on this, because it honestly really put me in a place of depression, and not because it's not really because of the contents of what I'm doing itself or why I'm doing it. It's more so the act of trying to finish something so big where people have these expectations for you of making something great when I don't think it's going to be great or perfect. That's all I really had to say. I'm kind of being a little vulnerable here, but I'm still not happy with the end result, but I'm really trying to be less like perfectionist about it. So on top of all of that other information, I will also be re-recording every single thing today, because I just, again, don't like how everything came out, but all the other editing should be finished and done for the most part, like all the chapters and stuff. But everything you see here will be recorded today because I just wanted to redo it. I needed a fresh start for that aspect of things, and that's it. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. So for this log, I really wasn't sure. I mean, I guess for all of them, I really wasn't sure how I wanted to present myself with the information presented in every single log. But I do know that this is going to be the final one with my thoughts being recorded today. Again, at 11:14, I mentioned this earlier, it's good. Everything's being re-recorded today. So I'm just going to start over. Personal reasons why I wanted to start over, and that's okay, I think. This is the Luxoria Conflict Finale, Part 1. The board is set. This is the beginning of the end, and originally this wasn't a finale log. It was just a regular log, but because it's everyone gearing up to be ready, I think it counts as a finale log, especially with what Genesis added in at the end of the log. Originally, my review for this log was over 10 minutes, but I felt like I was adding filler to said information, and it may not be 10 minutes this time while I talk. For those who are unaware, the board is set is about prep and finalizing things and getting ready for war. It takes place at a few different times in the day. There's the early meeting where Sal is talking with Genesis and several others, like Sarah, my NPC, and Lilith was there, another NPC of mine who's pretty important to the entire overarching story. Mac was there, as you can see, with former General McAllister. I believe I had another general come in from the EDF, and this is originally where I wanted Rizion to come in. I wanted him to play a high-ranking EDF person, and then plans changed, and I know Rizion talked about it. He was really upset about it, at least talked about it on the stream before, and he was kind of mad about it, and I get it. I completely understand, and I would just like to apologize to Riz for that. Kind of disrespectful on my end on accident, but shit happens and we just move on, right? It's not really that deep of a log, I'm gonna just be honest. They're all talking about plans and how they're gonna handle things, and then there's early morning and then goes to morning where there's more people, like Ariel's here, Mystroma's here talking. And I think that, yeah, this is where I had the general come in, is in the morning, not the early morning, and to say some peace and send his own men in to help with the war effort, but he himself cannot join in as he is too busy. Ariel's here. I don't know if Ariel is in the early morning part. Let's find out. She was not there in the morning part. It's been a minute since I actually recorded anything, so forgive me. The most interesting I want to talk about is, aside from them all talking and like planning, there is rather part at noon. This is where things kick off. This is where Genesis starts his battle against the Luxoria family. That was like the initiation to get the hell out of there and go. That was kind of like the starting point. So everyone's like, okay, well, it's time to get our shit in the gear. Let's get going, guys. So everyone kind of just like he got hugged, but they all leave each area and go their own separate paths to take on different parts of the army and military that is the one that they're fighting, which is again the Luxoria family, which is more of a privatized mafia with lots of funds. This is where stuff kicks off. I know it's not that long of a review, but I don't really have like I said previously, the last time I did this, it was like a 10-minute review with editing. It was longer without editing. I don't really have a lot to say. I mean, it just kicks stuff off, you know. Again, I actually do have a little bit of trivia about this part right here with Genesis right here. This actually wasn't Genesis. I mean, it is. It's his writing. It's his writing, and everything he made is by him. But Nigmus wasn't there in the game. He sent it to me on Discord, and he's like, "Here, throw this in." So I was like, "Okay, bet." And when I went to go add it into the log, I just changed it from narrator to Genesis because, excuse me, again, it's what he wrote, not me. It's a little bit of nice trivia there. I think all the colors changed, man. I've given Lilith like 7 different different colors over the past several months. I can never seem to stick with it. Same for Zara too. Like, I think I changed his colors a bunch because I'm not happy with how they turned out. Zara wasn't there for very long, wasn't he? You know, he only had 1 post, I think, or 2 posts. He had a couple posts, but not many. And then, really, the busy work here is from Sal. He does most of the writing here. He's not the only one, but he basically runs the show here for this log. Pretty commendable in my opinion, because I didn't really have much to add personally to this, but that's okay. And let's talk about the next log in just a second here. This is the second log of the finale, where rage drives you. Now, the cool thing about this log is that this is the start of the combat. Most of the logs happen at the same time, with varying events that happen in between them. However, when a log is done early, there is no events able to be mentioned in previous logs, and I'll get to that when those become necessary and important to the narrative. But for now, in this log, it is Sal and Allium. It says Cordio, but that's just what Sal put down, because the character that I play mostly is Cordio. But Cordio is not in this log, only Allium. So it's kind of a misnomer. I don't know why Sal did that, but I'm not complaining at all. It's a little confusing if someone were to look at this. Sal goes out on his own. There's a little bit of a mistake right here. Oops. But Sal goes out on his own, and Allium greets him standing on top of his ship, the main ship that is where home base is. And Sal's kind of standing on his, and I believe he does telepathy here. Oh yeah, Sal's playing some music. I forgot what he was playing. Oh, it's a Jailhouse Rock, it looks like, because he says that right here in the thing. What did Allium do? Yeah, okay, he does do telepathy here until they get closer. Then they had some banter, and Allium's like, the strong have the right to rule. And he's like, I differ from my son. What was his name again? Dav was his name, I believe. Dav kind of got cut in half by Ariel. Alliam kind of lies here because he's like, it has nothing to do with you. You kidnapped Lilith. This is why your people died. The core. I don't think he mentions the core here, but I honestly should have had him mention the core because that was the big thing he wanted. And that was in his head. The white text, I think, was to show it was in his head, and then the blue was to show that he was speaking. And Sal was like, that's bullshit, man. Sal was like, that's bullshit. And he's like, I'm going to show you the will of the weak. And Alliam's like, I'm going to show you just how wrong you are. So they get into this fight. It's kind of one-sided. Actually, do I make him go Super Saiyan in the first part? His name is Dav. Oh yeah, so I did have Alliam go Super Saiyan right off the bat. And the reason for that is because I wanted Alliam to show that he was an actual threat and that there was no warm-up to the conflict here. Sal was going to get his ass kicked, and I talked to Sal about that. I was even like, I believe I was like, hey Sal, would you be okay with Alliam going Super Saiyan here on the first post? And I believe it was something we discussed. I would have hated to ruin something that he may have had planned for like a early conflict or the fight or whatever. In general, it's been it was a nice log. The craziest thing here, I think, is just like how strong Alliam is, because Alliam was tier 3, and I could not go above tier 3. I mean, I could have, but in order for me to do that, it would have required me to have multiple people there, and that was not what I wanted to do. So I kind of leveled it at tier 3. Sal was still tier 2 until he went Super Saiyan, which I'll talk about when he goes Super Saiyan. Sal gets his ass beat. Alliam was relentless. He's teleporting around, kicking Sal, and all these other things. And then there's a little bit of Zera here. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really want to play any other NPCs in this log, but Sal was adamant on a specific plan that he wanted to do, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. And that's why it seems a little, that's why, like, if you read Zera's stuff in this log, it seems uninteresting, or like, I wrote it because I was interested in doing it, but I digress. And then it takes several rounds for it to like charge and lock on, and basically what they're trying to do is get the ship to shoot a giant hole into the side so people can invade in and enter through. Oh, and then Alliam gets hit by a hammer. He dodges the first one and gets hit by the other one. Oh yeah, so this is something I forgot about this briefly. I really forgot about this. So when I was doing this, I actually asked Riz if I could have like offhandedly mentioned Nova, that Alliam fought Nova, and I thought this would just bring things into like a nice bow. I don't believe Saliath had Saliath. I've been saying his name wrong this entire time. Oops. But Saliath, I don't think really recognized that part in his posts, but I'd have to double check, which I will see in just a minute here. Alliam said, "You put up a good fight. It gets my old bones going again. As a Saiyan, we seek harder and harder challenges, but you are hardly the strongest foe I've faced. The Saiyan that goes by Nova is the only one who's ever defeated me, and that is not a mistake I will make again." He's a very cocky man, and I really just wanted to throw that in there as a line, because it shows that he can be defeated and he's not invincible. And I think he's not really a grounded character by any means, but I think it makes him a more believable character that he's interacted with the verse before, even if it's not a story that's been told by Riz and I at all at any point. It's just something that I asked him if I could say, and he said it was fine. Oh yeah, and this is his ultimate, one of his ultimate attacks. May the gods bless you in the afterlife. You are not up to my standards. Very quickly, Alliam's energy surged again, roaring loudly as it tripled in size. Golden energy forms at the base of his hands, expanding further and further. Lumen Divinum unleashed from his hands was a beam of brilliant golden energy that radiated with the maximum power of a Super Saiyan. I never really got to show off all of his moves because a lot of the other enemies use his moves, like the other enemies that exist in the other logs bought by other people used his skills. Like against Genesis, it was like sort of a super compressed attack that would radiate with lightning on the inside and like basically destroy anything in its path. And Alliam did get to use that actually, but not some of the other skills that the other guys had. He has a lot of skills. Obviously, as an NPC, he kind of doesn't have limits to what his power can be, because theoretically you can make a tier 3 character be stronger than a tier 3 based on the mechanics of the fight, but he was a tier 3 character meant to be defeated by a single tier 3 character, so I didn't want to go super crazy. And Sal gets hit by it. He tries to shield himself, but he keeps getting attacked. And then Zera finally goes and shoots, I believe. Wait, hold on. Yeah, so he shoots here and shoots a hole into the ship. Again, I really wasn't interested in playing Zera, so that might be why it seems less than stellar. I was really excited to play Allium though, so... Oh yeah, and then Allium was kind of using his energy more and more and more and more. Trying to kill Saliev here, but it didn't really work out that way, which is fine. It's exactly how I thought it would go. And then Mac comes in, and there's a little funny story here. And I don't necessarily blame Sal for this, because we kind of talked about this a little bit beforehand. I don't like rigging things, or like doing specific things to make it seem more fair in Sal's favor. But in this case, it was fine, because it was exposition. It was we were near the end of part 1, and I wasn't holding back anything. Me and Sal talked a lot about this in a moment. We discussing like how much damage one takes, or how much something does, or how the effects of something works. And I wasn't trying to blue ball him, and I wasn't trying to blue ball myself. I thought the fight was very fair, even though he got his ass beat most of this log, which was expected in the first place. But I knew Sal wasn't going to die from this log, because we wanted to stop and like split this into 2 parts. And then the fun thing here, Mac kind of like hammers down Allium. Oh yeah, I was going to mention, before I got sidetracked on the tangent, is when Mac does that, when he slams the hammer, slams like a hammer, or sorry, and it metallic color with kinetic energy. Yeah, so some sort of blunt weapon. He kind of role-played as Allium here a little bit, like showing what would happen. I'm just like, Sal, you can't do that, man. I will handle that in my post, and I promise you I will not fuck you over on this. I just need you to not do that for me. So he edited it, and I'm just like, thank you. So, and then Allium gets like thrown down. He was like, all right, fuck this. And then he jumps off of his ship, because he like gets tossed and then lands on his ship, and then goes. I'm using my hand as an example. You can't see my fucking hand, so what am I doing? Basically, he goes from one end back to the other, speeds up, and then slams his fist into Mac's stomach, makes him fall. Like he basically inserts his fist into Mac's stomach to the other end, and then pulls it out, letting Mac fall to the ground. And that's where the end of this log comes in. And this is where Sal goes Super Saiyan. And I just want to congratulate Sal for this. It was a really fantastic transformation. I know that a lot of times, like, transformations can be hard to do for a first time, and that you're not really entirely sure what you want to do, even though you have some idea. It's just really well done. I've had my grievances about it, about a specific thing with his eye color, but that's not really my place to say you can't have red eyes. But if he wants to be unique and be a Super Saiyan with red eyes, who's going to stop him? I'm not. He do whatever he wants with that. I'm a Saiyan purist, so what I mean by that is I think Saiyans should always have brown or black hair, and should always pertain to having the similar naming schemes of Kakarot, Vegeta, Tarble, Broly, Paragus. They all are puns for vegetables, and I've always kind of been a purist for that sort of thing, especially Super Saiyan transformations with the eye color. That's just how I am. I'm not gonna scream at someone for not following that, because I understand not everyone likes to do the same thing as I do, and that's perfectly understandable. And that's that for this log. See you guys in a minute. This is the 3rd part of the finale, Clash of the Titans. I think this is one of my favorite ones out of the bunch. I mean, they're all good. All the logs are good, but I don't know. I love when Nigmus always does stuff I don't know how to explain it, because he does things in a way that is just fucking epic and fucking cool, and always ups it to like 500% of what I'm expecting. And I think he's one of the best writers in the community, and that's not like taking shots at anybody else. I just think he's really good. So this log has something I did intentionally here. I had a list of NPCs for each person to fight, and then I had some extras that may get involved, and none of the extra ones did. But I was making characters kind of based around how the others would be fighting them. Aside from Mistroma, I think Mistroma got someone else because I didn't like the initial concept that I was gonna run, but that's for a different time. But this one, I involved a Saiyan who goes Ozaru at some point to match with Genesis's giant form transformation. That said, this doesn't start with that fight. It starts with Genesis fighting several ships. So the Luxoria family has basically a platoon of ships, like a grouping of ships, several of them, probably over a dozen of them. And then they go to fight Genesis, already giant form from previously, and so he goes to fight them. The giant form transformation caught the eyes of the family, basically saying that here, and they were targeting him. And they all shot lasers, nothing material or nothing like physical, like bullets. Like it was all lasers. And that was actually a question that Enigmas asked of me, was what kind of bullets are they, or like what kind of weapons or cannons are they? Sorry, I yawned. So Genesis is kicking the ship's asses. You know, that probably killed people, if you really think about it, but it gets into it. So he destroys the ships, and there's more that keeps doing it. They keep chasing him, and there's I put an emphasis on fighting like on the ground too for anyone, like on the battlefield, so ground troops would be dispersing if there were any. Like, this is just so good. This is such good writing. I don't know. I don't know. It's really hard for me to put like how I feel in words when it comes to something so good, because I sound like a broken record. And just like let me read some of this. Genesis launched himself off the ground. The ground shuddered underneath him as he did so, the pavement shattering under the force of the launch, and he spun into the air, foot outstretched, twisting himself into a spin and dragging the air with him. That's just fucking... I don't even know how he manages to do that. Like, I don't think I'm as good of a writer as many of the people in this community, and he just... Again, this is what I mean. Like, I'm sounding like a broken record. He just, the way he describes things and the way he writes things out is always so cool and amazing that there's nothing that I can say that can show my appreciation for that kind of work. Of course, Genesis is basically born to be a Saiyan because he wants to fight people who are strong. He wants to bring the great he wants the Luxoria family to bring out their greatest warriors. Now let me just say that there was no way in hell that Genesis was going to lose, because the scaling of this family is up to tier 3, and initially there was only ever going to be one tier 3 character, which was Allium, and that changed with Dov and all the other characters who were potentially tier 3. And yes, this is taking place during the day, so I had to say and throw out a false moon, and he went past the boundaries of the rays to stop that sort of thing on Earth and turned into an Ozaru, and Genesis fought him like that. Oh yeah, and something I forgot to mention is that Genesis had armor. He specifically asked, I believe, Saliath to make this armor to withstand heavy artillery from the Luxoria family ships. And this other thing I want to say is that in the previous review, I did say Saliath a lot. Even after I corrected myself, I kept saying Saliath. So I'm going to be saying Saliath from now on, and if I don't, then I'm just doing the same thing I did last time. And so they fight. It's pretty much what you'd expect from a giant battle. It's a little bit of back and forth. Genesis's armor snaps, I think, for fighting this guy. And the craziest thing here is that Genesis was not fighting back for part of it, actually. He wanted to put... I think he was trying to irritate the Saiyan and to make him act irrationally. And It was pissing him off. I kind of played into that. And oh yeah, from the mouth beam, I think that's what cracks his armor. No, this is a beam battle. We did a beam battle. Okay, yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, and I said, God, that's so fucking cool. And he's like, LOL, I'm logging that because this genuinely was really cool. Again, I read some stuff earlier, but just read this yourself. Like, go into this log and read up to here and keep reading because it's just genuinely so good. Selenar was not going to win this. There's like a little bit of a fight, and it could have kept going, I think, for a couple rounds, but I didn't want to like extend what beyond what was necessary, so I just kind of had him lose, and he lost. It's several miles skidding across the ground as if it was water in his Osiris state. He stands up and he starts doing like the like E-blast like spam thing that Vegeta does all the time, and obviously that wasn't going to work. He was getting desperate. Selenar was getting desperate because Genesis was, you know, winning. Why did I change his colors here? What? Oh no. Yeah, I did change his colors. Why did I do that? That's not what I meant to do. I think these were done on 2 different days. I think because I imagine I was confused about the colors. I'm not too sure. Oh yeah, and he did the Ozaru went. What was it? He jumps into the sky, dozens of feet off the ground, and rockets toward Genesis. And then Genesis catches it, and he's like, hit me again. I said, again and again and again, with everything you have. You think I came here to fight you? No, I came here to fight the strongest. But he's not ready yet, and sometimes you have to cultivate strength. He could feel the 2 auras, one much stronger than the other, clashing in the distance. One of those was quite familiar, of course. Weep for your lord, Allium, because I believe to my core that an unexpected reckoning is coming to him. And then reach deep, find whatever dregs of power you haven't tapped, and hit me with all of it. Because the moment I decide you show me everything there is to you, I'm going to hit back. Like, that's raw as fuck, man. How do you compete with that? You don't compete with that. And I know this isn't a popularity contest or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about this anymore. I think I've said everything I needed to about this log. There's a little bit more here. Like last time I talked about, he did a move. He kept fighting Genesis. This was the final attack that Selenar did. And I was like, we can keep going after this if you want to. We don't have to stop. This is like his strongest attack, but we could have kept going. This is like the very condensed Spear of Ki. It was bigger than what Allium could. It was a little bit bigger than what Allium would have had made, but that's just because it's an unmastered technique. And Genesis just kind of, oh yeah, the massive explosion, imperfect, yes, drastically smaller. Comparing the size of the explosion, not the actual initial condensing of the size of the blast. And Genesis kind of does this thing. Yeah, he sprang across the ground between himself and Selenar in moments, propelled by a leap that sent fissures wrenching through the earth and shattered bedrock. The leap was a force of destruction in its own right. A shining star carried in a giant Namekian's right hand approached, and that fist swung forward, every muscle pulling tight. Everything he had in wave strength snapping at once in a perfectly choreographed dance of applied physics and sculpted biology. And it carried with a roaring power whose destructive potential was an easy rival for the next Tempestus, but focused and shaped. And then he gets sent to the sky, and I kind of left it ambiguous as to whether he was alive or not, because I'm not sure if he should be dead or not. If there's any interesting story I could tell with any of the remaining NPCs, then I will probably say he's alive. There's room to do more with them if it's brought up again, because the way I'm handling the whole conflict is that once Allium is ultimately defeated, unless he wins, which I think most people already know the outcome of that, but those NPCs are not going to be indoctrinated anymore. They're not going to be part of a cult that Allium has cultivated for years beyond what most would expect. Because everyone in the family, a lot of people in the family are doing this, they're fighting in this war because they want to protect their family and to get Lilith back, because they don't realize that Lilith wasn't brainwashed and kidnapped. They believe that wholeheartedly, at least most of them do. Some of them know the truth, such as Dav. Dav was one of them, but he wasn't part of the finale. And there's the one with Ariel's log, which wasn't really, there wasn't really a lot of fighting going on there. But I think that's an interesting log too. But we'll get to that when we get to that. And I don't know. There's just a lot of stories that I can still tell, and there's some more stuff I can talk about at the epilogue because I introduced another android similar to the Cryo Archon. But again, we'll get there when I get there. And that's everything for this log. Appreciate it. Goodbye. See you in another second. This log is being recorded on 11/24/2024. Unfortunately, unlike the statement I said many minutes ago that this was being recorded in the same day, it was not. That said, I'm here now, and obviously for you guys it's like literally seconds, because that's just how videos work and editing, and it's how all that works. But we're here. I have the Luxoria conflict finale part 4, the emerging star, pulled up, and right here is one of my favorites. I think Nostromo is really good at what he does and how he does things. When I said that I don't rig things, I don't rig things, but I did talk to Nostromo about this log specifically beforehand, and I had asked if he wants to see the Machian star and have that come out at some point, maybe a point of stress. Obviously, it's not it doesn't come out because of Nostromo's stress. It's not indicative of how he is as a character, but I felt like it could lead to a very powerful moment for the character, and it was really good. Now this log has Lelia, another one of the Luxoria family people, obviously, and she's actually a tier 3 and was tier 3 at this point in the log, and I really wanted to give Nostromo a challenge here, and it really worked out in a way that was unexpected. He gets his ass beat pretty hard. He does do some damage to Lelia, but I think with how she works as a character really reflects against Nostromo as a whole, because her whole thing is adapting to the situation, and her ability is like key projections of weapons and armor and stuff. And what I did for her transformation was basically turn her Super Saiyan transformation into her armor, if I recall correctly. Let me go fact check that really quick. I checked, and as you can see right here, golden armor. I turned her Super Saiyan transformation into the golden energy that it has and surrounded her with it for her armor. And I thought that was really cool. And she was able to maneuver that for part of her transformation. And she just, it was kind of like how Sal does key constructs, but on a more particular level here for controlling things in a way that acts as weapons. I was inspired by, I think, Gas from the Granola arc. It was Gas. But that's enough about me and my NPC here. At this point in time, you would have had to have read Whispers in the Shadow. I think that's what that's called. Let me go look. Whispers in the Darkness is what it was. Not Shadows. Although I think Whispers in the Shadows is actually a lot cooler than Darkness. But I digress. So something I failed to mention in in Sal's log is that it starts raining at a certain point, and the sky darkens a little bit because of that, and it's just rain because of Mac dying, and I just wanted to make it nice and emotional, and I kind of played into that into pretty much all the other logs, and this I kind of wish this one was first in the order because of what happens with the star. Because again, the star comes out, and I use that to affect every other log afterward, but each log pretty much happens at the same time. I think the one, like, chronologically, Styx's log is first. Styx's, and then Genesis actually starts fighting before Sal is even at the battlefield. But other than that, it's pretty much like right after one another and like happening at the same time. The one that happens after Styx leaves is with Ariel, but again, I'll get into that as we move on. I thought it was really interesting here that Nostromo was trying to talk down Lelia at first, because he didn't want to fight someone if they didn't have to. To what I know is that Nostromo was trying to be a nice person and trying to be like, look, I don't want to do this. You don't have to do this. We can walk away from this without hurting each other. And Lelia was like, she's like the rest of the people that were involved, that she believed that Lilith was brainwashed and kidnapped. So Mistroma begrudgingly has to fight her. There was, and part of that is because I wasn't trying to have an alternate solution where they can talk out of the fight, because this is not a time for negotiation or diplomacy. That was never going to happen. And I don't want to make it feel like that Mistroma didn't have a chance of like talking her down, but at the same time, when I'm already trying to set out to do a combat log, it's it's just how it is. As I was saying about the Whispers in Darkness log or arc, you'd have to know that Mistroma has the curse of his people in him, and he's barely survived. Like, he's very sick, but he's still willing to fight for everyone and be involved in this conflict despite how he is. And I think that's admirable. But what we talked about was when Mistroma was getting his ass beat, he was losing, he got launched into the air, and he was like ferocious, like he was trying to kill Lelia, but it was against what he wanted. The curse was kind of taking him over, so Lelia was trying to fight and kill Lelia here once it was taking over. But then the Machian Star came out, and what we talked about here is that it would make sense for the Machian Star to remove the curse if you were in direct contact with the star, and if you weren't too far gone already, which Mistroma wasn't, and it healed him. And this brought forth a great power in him, and we discussed that he could be tier 3. He could be tier 3 here, and that he could be tier 3 here under the Machian Star, but I did tell him that this may not go with everyone. Like, if you use this while it's still out and you want to fight someone, talk to them first about you being tier 3, because it doesn't necessarily make you tier 3. It's narrative. It has narrative weight to it, but it does not generally increase your tier. But for the fight, I was like, okay, Mistroma, this is gonna make you tier 3. Hope you're okay with that. He was, obviously, and we let it happen. I'm gonna read this out, and then I'm gonna read out what Mistroma typed out. It's as if today was the fate of more than just Pepper City, more than Solias' defense, more than just the Luxoria family's honor and crimes of a large invasion force. Even the EDF have gotten involved. A general had lent out his very own men for this battle. A lot of lives were at stake here, thousands from both sides. But on this very day, there was more than meets the eye to most. To all Machians, however, this would see the day of something amazing, a rarity among dozens of lifetimes in the making. The Machian Star, one of the possible rarest occurrences that can exist, lest one were to follow its chart across space. It reveals itself as it slowly fades in over the sky, hitting the earth like a mighty beacon of power for those who can and would be affected. Mistroma roared and scratched, clawed, and tried his best to rip Lelia apart, yet his feral mind couldn't think straight. He was being dominated by this opponent and her unique abilities. His own lost to him as the runic corruption overtook his mind and body, being torn apart internally as he was being malformed into the very monsters he was trying to save. His eyes were blank, without feeling, yet inside his mind he fought. He would try to break free, to bring back control of his mind to the very body he was sealed within. Yet no matter what he did, nor how much he screamed, all he heard was the repetitious command, call forth. Yet the gleaming flight above began to shine brighter, a red pillar of light cascading down upon the battlefield, directed onto the runes in the sky and pouring into the body of the imp. Mistroma felt himself slammed into the ground, his body held down by the sheer weight of force as the black veins within his body began to dissipate. Snarling, screeching, clawing at the sky, the imp would try his best to break free, to transform, but he could not. And yet, slowly, his eyes regained semblance. They regained their life. Golden hues returned as he struggled to his feet, his body throbbing, energy rising, and then there was an explosion of power, a dome of light that encapsulated the area around him, and a roar that reverberated the world. It was hard to say what happened as the smoke closed in. The pillar would diminish as the pure concentrated release of the Machian Star energy was absorbed in full. The smoke would billow and part as standing in the center of the impact zone was the imp, though imp no longer, standing at a towering 911, his only attire, the pants he wore, and the combat boots beneath. Staring upon the woman's golden-clad form, black and white electricity surged around his figure. He seemed different, and yet the eyes that glared were not beast-like, intentionally, but with a calculated look. I think he messed up there at the end, that intention part. I'm not sure what he meant there, but otherwise, I think this is a really great three set post from him, showing what his character was going through and how it impacted his character. Even if there's not really thoughts here of the character feeling a specific way too much, it's about the action that was put in here and how his character was cursed, and now all of a sudden the Machian star brought him back from the brink of chaos. And I thought in the moment this was really fucking cool, and I just want to give props to where it's due. I like Mistroma, you did fucking fantastic. I don't really have much more to say about the log. Like they're all combat logs, so it's really hard for me to be unique in what I say, but I don't know. And he was powering lately at this point. Like, obviously they're both tier 3, but I was considering the narrative weight too, which again is very important here. The narrative weight of the Machian star is very important and would push Mistroma to do enough damage to beat Lelia. And I don't really, maybe I should start doing this, but I don't generally lower energy costs and health costs on NPCs because they're kind of cheaty, they're kind of hacky, and can have as much as necessary or much as needed. So I don't know, but she gets her ass beat. And there was a point where she was pushed to the ground and like Mistroma was shooting at her and was trying to basically damage her. He wasn't trying to kill her, but at the moment in time it felt like that's how it was coming out, and I was like, yeah, she's probably gonna die. And Mistroma next post was redirecting stuff, trying to keep her alive. And Lelia is still alive, but barely. She ends up being in a crater, I believe. Yeah, she was spared. Lelia was lucky to be spared this day. As the blast did not hit her, she would survive. But then some energy went into Lelia, restoring a little bit of her health. The soul that was supposed to be sent to the afterlife would not go on this day today. She was still unconscious, but remained alive. And only time will tell what happens to both of them. And she was breathing, struggling to do so, but she was breathing. Yeah, so basically Mistroma gives her a little bit of health or energy, and that helps her stay alive. I haven't really done a log yet about the remaining survivors, but I may do that soon. I may make a log about the survivors of the Luxoria family and do something about that. I don't know. But again, high marks. I don't believe I rated this maximum. I don't think I rated any of these logs maximum, but again, high marks to Mistroma here. I think this is one of his best works for combat wise. I think the fight with his brother in Whispers of Darkness was also really good, but I think here it doesn't have the personal level that it does in Whispers in the Darkness. I said that twice. But my point is that I don't know, it's really great, and I'm proud to have done this with Mistroma. Anyways, that's it. I'm out. Peace, boys. Until the next few seconds. I'll see you soon. Okay, I want to start this one off by just saying I'm sorry, Veden. And I know that may not mean a whole lot, or maybe it's even less necessary for me to apologize, but I feel like this log is the reason why you quit Ariel. And again, I know I talked with you about this in length a little bit, and I know Ariel is not my character, and you said things are too depressing for Ariel and you're going to retire her for now and have no reason to come back to her. But hear me out, and please hear me out. Please don't skip over this. I just want you to hear how I feel about it, and maybe you can make more judgment off of that. But I've talked to a few people about this, and they all agree that Ariel still has room as a character and room to grow and change. And you're the writer. You can make things happen realistically to the point where it's not so depressing for Ariel. And I don't know how you would do that. Again, Ariel is not my character. It's not my place, really. But I just want to say that I do think that Ariel still has room in the universe, in this for a story to tell, or stories to tell, you know, like, and maybe this is selfish of me to say, but like there is still room for Ariel and Cordio to do something, and I still want to do that, and even if you don't want to, I understand, but it really hurt personally that you're gonna quit this character. It just made me feel really sad and bummed out, because there's no goodbye for, like, between Ariel and Cordio, or Ariel and Jean, or anyone else. And I just felt like that you gave up too quickly. And please do not take this the wrong way. I don't want to come off as condescending or rude, but I feel like you gave up on the character before you even tried to do things in a way that would fix the character. And I don't, maybe I'm wrong about that, and I'm willing to hear you out more on this, and I'm maybe, even if you don't want to, that's fine, we don't have to talk about it, but I don't want you to take me the wrong way. I'm not trying to like bully you to bring Ariel back. I'm just saying that I feel like that there's more for you to do, more that you can do, and that this log really bummed me out afterward, of the fact that Ariel is just disappeared because of this, because of stuff in this log and what happened. And you said it was okay, and I know you're not lying. Of course you're not lying to me, but I don't find it okay, and I feel responsible. I am responsible for your decision, and I want to own up to that. And I wish there was more we could do. Even I don't know. Is there even a point in discussing this right now? I don't know. I just feel like that you, as the writer, could come up with something to fix things. I don't know. Thank you for hearing me out. I'm really conflicted about the whole thing. And again, it's not my character. I don't have a say in whether the character gets continued or not. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. And it's been killing me for months. For months about it. And I still feel really fucking bad. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was about to cry. To stop myself for a second there. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional over it. I'm gonna take a break in the recording and come back in a few minutes. just to clear my head. I need to make an honest review. Okay, it's been a few minutes and I'm ready to continue talking. This log is kind of fun. Sal wanted to be... So, the fun thing about this log, or I guess a fact about this log, is that it was my mistake here that Mistroma and Ariel were supposed to be together, but I had made it very clear from the beginning that I didn't want anyone to go together at all, and that it would be individual solo logs to make up for the fact that destruction was too big, and I wanted to make it easier for everyone, including myself. Could you imagine like how fucking hard this would have been if we did this in one massive log again? Yeah. Sal was really upset about it, and I guess I shouldn't say he was upset, but he had something planned that he wanted to do with both of them, but we adapted, and I said, we're gonna just do it with Ariel. Ariel will be on the ground team, and she can handle it. It'll be all right. And so we kind of salvaged it. And again, I shouldn't say Sal was upset, but he was kind of bummed out in a way, I suppose. But Sal was here for the beginning of the log to set the stage for the start. They had a plan to blow parts of the ship up, and what's really funny is that they both did it at the same time, and I'll get into that in just a second here. But Travis is leading Ariel in with a squad, and as they were going forward, they kind of let Ariel go on ahead. They kind of take up arms, and Ariel was trying not to hurt anyone. She's like knocking people aside and like pushing people down, but not really killing anyone. And I believe there's a robot here. Oh yeah, there's ship's alarms, and they were trying to like stop them, of course, but these were non-ascended soldiers. Oh yeah, this is really funny. I'm gonna read this. The ship's alarms were constantly blaring, mostly due to the big-ass hole in the side of the ship, but beyond that, the hallway leads into another room, a larger one. It kind of looked like a rec room almost. There was a couch and a TV in the area with other furniture about, and even a potted plant or two. There wasn't anybody currently relaxing, but several nearby people took notes of Ariel's presence. One of them picked up a communicator and ran off while the others stood by, guns ready to point it toward the Kaya. One of them yells, "You are an enemy! Put your hands into the air, now!" And so this is... I thought this was kind of funny at the time, too. Ariel stared at them with her eyes squinted, wondering if anybody in the ship had common sense. Perhaps she looked weak due to her somewhat small height, but it seemed as though the sword she was wielding wasn't indicative enough of her power. Still, in the situation, she got a great idea as to how not to hurt anybody while still getting to her goal. Okay. Her hands are slowly lifted up while she's still holding that sword, of course. Then she just runs past them as fast as she can. If they were not ascended, it probably wouldn't matter anyways. And then, of course, she was too fast for their gunfire. And she didn't mention Veden didn't mention an after image, but because she was moving so fast, I opted to put one in there. So they were shooting at her after image, and then by the time I disappeared, she was already out of the room. Yeah, so there was a mech, and so I listened to Rizion's review of the Kerwin fight with Swansong, and he mentioned how Ike was very inspired by Cyberpunk 2077. But I think you can tell that I was inspired a little bit by Mass Effect at this point, because I had been playing Mass Effect, 1 and 2. I don't remember when I finished 2, and I was on to 3. And the big enemy in like Mass Effect 1, or sorry, Mass Effect 2 was like this mech thing that always came out. And I was like, I really want to do that in DBI, and that's exactly what I did. Like even back during Destruction, I really wanted to do like a John Wick thing, and it didn't really turn out the way I wanted it to, but I had barely been into John Wick at that point, and I wanted to do like a whole like shadow assassin like gunfight thing in the hospital. But I think what we got was way better than what I had planned anyways. And she doesn't even hurt the mech. Like I don't remember if there was a person in there or not, but she basically blasts a hole in the floor, and like it gets stuck in the hole. It can't do anything. And what's interesting is that when she finally gets to the bridge, she runs into Allium's second in command, Solantris. Solantris, I think, is one of my personal favorite NPCs I've used, and he was someone I made specifically to go against Ariel. And like obviously I said that before, but like this one was what inspired me to do this in the first place. Solantris was the first one I wrote up, and I thought it was fucking genius. And I tried to give enough hints as to what he is and his nature, but he was the complete opposite, I think, of what, like, he's the opposite of Ariel. And they kind of talk. They don't really fight. And, I said with Mastroma's log that there wasn't going to be a chance to back down from the fight. And that's the case here, too. But I found it far more interesting that they had a discussion of what goes on. And they were trying to blow shit. They were trying to blow the ship up, or parts of it. And Solantris was like, man, you really do not know anything, do you? Guess what, motherfucker? I'm gonna blow the ship up first! And he's the craziest son of a bitch ever. So he's basically talking to Ariel like, I'm gonna give you a set amount of time. I'm gonna blow this place to smithereens. And Ariel's like, I don't actually believe you're gonna do it. I'm gonna call your bluff. And Solantris is like, okay. Here's a timer. What's actually interesting to me is that before that, actually, because I see it right here on the screen, is that Ariel is shown to display the recording of her cutting Dov in half on repeat. I'm going to start up here. I'm going to read quite a lot. Solantris gives off a smile. The rest of his face was rather monotone in nature. Ariel, yes, it seems you've passed the mech as expected. The man stands up to greet the Kaioshin. Past records indicate that you were not as powerful until recently. It seems poor Dov deserved to get what was coming to him. He continues smiling. He puts a hand up to his shin and rubs it, trying to think of what to do next. I've been ordered to bring all of your heads to Allium once he's back. However, unlike the others, he does not get to dictate what I do. Instead, I'll decide if I should kill you after I've spoken with you. That seems to be your nature, Miss Ever So Innocent Woe Is Me Kaioshin. Ariel immediately felt something bad coming from the man before. That smile, his possibility of sparing her, it didn't quite add up for an ascendant in an evil family, or perhaps someone just working under them. She wasn't sure what that bad thing was, but he just made her feel unease, not even due to his power. Still, He's the first enemy ever to actually be willing to talk, so she chose to entertain him. You seem to know just about everything there is to know about me, I assume. So firstly, I'd like to know your name. Of course. Firstly, I'd like to know your name, of course, and why you wish to spare me in the first place. And let's make it quick, please. I'm sorry to say, but I don't have much time. Ariel gripped her sword tightly. It was the only thing that could comfort her in such a moment. Before I continue, I just want to mention that Solantris is also a tier 3 character. Solantris snickers at the aspect of time being a problem. Few things, darling. I'm Solantris, but you may call me Sol. It's a disgusting name given to me by Allium. As for time, I don't think you understand then. I have the power to tell the engine deck to send this whole thing into flames in a matter of minutes. After all, you're talking to the second in command of the Luxoria family. I'm the one set to take Allium's place if he croaks. He pauses momentarily, allowing Ariel to process this information. He soon sits himself down at a chair near a table nearby. I messed up there. As for sparing you, darling, it's not a matter of sparing you. It's a matter of letting you go. I have no interest in this war, and so my enemies matter not to me. But you're in my territory now. I made a note here that if the ship did explode, it would kill a minimum of 1,000 people and possibly more. Those who are not inside working the ship itself would not be able to escape more than likely. Threatening the death of others, yet again. Ariel wasn't fazed in the slightest. The last guy who tried something like that just caused her to go berserk. She looked at Sol, completely unamused. Sure, and you'll also kill yourself in the process. She walks forward and stops near him, but not quite close enough to attack him. You could have walked away any time, but it looks like you don't want to do that. By all means, walk. Or... She clenches her sword, giving Sol a chance to choose. Solantris snaps his fingers, and a video display plays between the two of them. It's a simple event of Dav being sliced into two by Ariel's sword attack. Strike me down. Just like that. Just like Dav. Or you can't, can you? Solantris is unfazed by the threat before him. He didn't seem bothered. He just continues smiling like he has been this entire time. You could have cut this entire ship in half with that sort of power, but you can't. Solantris leans back in his chair. He even dares to yawn. Dav was nothing special, a maniac with the ideology of a second-rate anime villain. I really like that line, and I think that went under the radar for everyone involved, and I just thought that was a really cool line. So I don't regret that. It also implies that Solantris watches anime. Ariel looked at the video display over and over. She had no idea of just how much power she unleashed. In fact, she didn't even know Dav powered up that much. It made her realize just how powerful she could be, how much potential dwelled deep within, yet all of it was still unknown to her. Then the Kaio snaps back to reality. Her attention is once more fully caught by Sol's speech. The words have some truth to them, and it bothers her greatly. And Ariel did not have the power right now. Sol was stronger than her, and she couldn't possibly suddenly power up, but there was something she hoped to have that her enemy wouldn't. And now, that's not necessarily true, that Ariel was weaker, because Ariel is a tier 2 character, and Sol, or Solantris, is also tier 2, and he didn't transform at all. So he never got to be stronger than Ariel, in quotation marks. And I'm really glad I didn't have Solantris transform, because it's fucking terrifying, at least for what it should be. I don't really have it written out, but my notes for this character are a terrifying transformation that goes beyond all norms. Whatever that means, I don't know. I haven't actually written his transformation out, and if he had transformed in this log, it would have been done on the spot. Ariel's free hand would begin glowing yellow as a sphere of energy was beginning to be formed. With each passing second, it grew in size, the noise emitted by the orb growing louder, like a bomb about to go off. And she fires it towards the wall, all while staring at Sol. The blast wasn't intended to hurt or kill anyone, but rather create a large explosion within the room they were in. I can't unleash that power, but I have something worse. Clarity. Solantris stretches, having seen enough. He twists his neck around, cracking it a few times, and stands up again. I can't have you damaging the walls, darling. I made my choice. You are a bore. No fun. Your allies can't even send me someone interesting to fight. There's some cowards who thinks peace and keeping as many people alive as possible is the only way to go around in life. Solantris pulls out a cellular device from his pants pocket and calls someone. Secure the project. Initiate the countdown. Turn this place into an inferno. Solantris snaps his fingers again. The hollow screen changes places and moves to the wall with a timer of 5 minutes. If you can thoroughly entertain me, I won't send this place to hell. He pockets the cellular device, waiting to see what Ariel would do next. So that was the entire initial conversation. And there's a lot more talking. I'm not going to go into that. You need to read the log yourself. However, I just want to say that I just thought it was really funny that Ariel thought he was fucking around and like bluffing. And when it times to actually blow the ship up, he fucking does it. And I don't go too much further into the project other than the fact that it shows that the project shows up later and is activated. And I make that an apparent note in the log with Allium too. The second one with Sal. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end with the ship blowing up. There is an unexpected guest here. And this is Zofu. Zofu put a lot more work into this log than I think I expected to do. And in that regard, it's why I gave her full points for Zofu. It's really interesting. So once Ariel's out of the ship, stuff starts blowing up. And, you know, that was the plan from the team, too, to get the ship going, to blow the ship up from the front and back. But Solantra's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Obviously, Solantris didn't want to die, so he fucking jumps ship. Ariel goes after him. Solantris flies. And then we get to the second half here. Zofu's main goal here was to make the ship land safely and take not as much damage as necessary. So he was like protecting the ship, watching it fall to the ground and hit the forest. There are still people who died. Zofu couldn't save everyone. But it's very commendable for what Zofu did, and I really appreciate what Ike added to this log that I think needed something else. And that's not Ariel's fault. That's not my fault, I don't think. I just think this log needed something extra, like an oomph, to really elevate it to another level. Like, for example, the Machian Star and the Emerging Star is that oomph that the log needed. Sal going Super Saiyan was the oomph that log needed in the first one after Mac dies. Well, dies in quotations. The log of Genesis did not need extra oomph. This is fucking Nigmus, man. Who needs extra oomph when Nigmus is the extra oomph whenever he goes to do things? But the point is that this is what elevates the log like the other ones. And I think it just adds something really nice. I'm not going to go too much further into the combat. I think you guys should just read the log and go from there. It's not my place to... I mean, I guess I could explain the entire log to you, but I'm not going to. I am not going to. The ending is quite nice. It goes with Ariel being defeated and falling to the ground. Obviously, Ariel lives. Solantris flees. He has nothing to do with this. And Zofu does go chase after Solantris, or at least attempts to go find him before he fully escapes. And we never ended up actually doing a log with that because I was going to. We just couldn't find time, or the schedules didn't match. I don't know. And I'm still willing to do that, by the way. It doesn't have to be a Luxoria conflict log. It can just be another thing. And I could really show off Solantris as a character here, as an NPC. I'm not going to reel too much. I will say that I tried to show that he was not who he says he was. And he's a bio-android. I'm going to just say that straight up. He's a bio-android. I kind of tried to make him like one of the... I tried to make him do things like from Parasite, the Maxim. I was trying to make him kind of like that. But I only hinted towards that a little bit. Regardless, I'm really, really, really happy how this log came out. On to the next. Sunspot is the only log that did not have me involved. Originally, it was me being part of this, and not Sal. Sal took over for me because Styx and I wasn't working out with our schedules, and we just weren't updating each other enough to make this work. And we didn't get that far at all in the log we had, and it was taking days in between. And I'm not blaming Styx for this. I'm not blaming Kuro at all. And it's more of my fault rather than Kuro's, and I'm willing to admit that. However, this log is great. I love this log, and obviously in the past I've said some negative things about logs, the Luxoria stuff that I've created with these guys, Styx and Sal. I've been negative before, but they've really amped it up and did things that I would do for the most part. Now there are some things I would have done differently here. Mainly, I would have set up a special attack from the character, Solanus, and I don't remember if that's the name I picked for the character or if that was Sal's creation. I don't remember. But I would have had an ultimate attack of some sort be shown off that was originally Allium's creation. And that's fine. That there isn't. It's totally okay. And I'm not docking points for that, or I didn't dock points for that. What's interesting about this log is that it's very, very much Styx's chaotic run usual. Like the usual run of Styx being chaos incarnate. And that's great. Styx is a very fun character and really works as that wild card. But this log is fairly short and I don't have a lot to say otherwise. The combat's what you'd expect. It starts off with Styx being disguised and then like spears Solanus, and then they fight. Solanus has whips. He's making things hot, hitting Styx with them and giving her sunburn, quote unquote. But they do a great job showing off everything else that's happened in other logs, like the Machian Star and the ship being targeted. Although I'm not sure. I don't remember if Styx actually gets the shields off, so I'm not sure. I don't remember. I did skim through the log again today, but my fault really to not notice that or realize that yet. What I found interesting is that Styx finds Mac, of all people, and that fact that Styx kind of closes his wounds, and you see that Sal rolled a d20, landed on a 20, and they managed to close the wound on Mac. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I'm sorry this is a really short review. It's only 3 minutes as of recording time, but I don't know what to say. I mean, I could talk about Kuro for a minute. I think it was great that Kuro came back for this, even though Kuro is very busy in real life, and that I enjoyed what they put out there for the log. And I apologize for not being consistent with you. It's my fault. I don't really have an excuse, but I just want to say that I'm thankful that you continued this with Sal, even if it was not with me. I am happy with the outcome of this log and the result. But yeah, is it unfair that I don't have a lot to say about this? I guess. I mean, I could go into the dragon stuff actually. I don't know if that's part something Styx can do is use the abilities exactly like if Styx transforms into a dragon. I don't know if that's technically legal, but for the log it was very fun and very chaotic, so I'll allow it. Nothing for me to really remarkably say about it. It was just cool, and I'm glad that Styx was creative and things were well done, and again, good marks for Styx. I don't remember what I gave Styx, but it was pretty on par with everyone else. Even the log was shorter, but length doesn't always mean better, in my opinion, and I think I rated it fairly. I think this is honestly one better off with Sal reviewing. He would probably have more input on what to say about it other than me, so maybe I'll get you, Sal, to talk about it some more, but beyond what I can say, because I think he would do a better job than me. Again, really good log. It's Styx sneaking into the ship, getting caught by Solanus, basically, and then they fight, and then Styx wins, heals Mac, and then they leave. But that's all I gotta say. Let's talk about Clear the Skies. This log was really fun, although it felt scripted. It wasn't scripted, but it felt scripted in the way that we did things. Sal had a very particular plan in mind, and I was like, okay, you can do your plan, but it may not always turn out the way you want it to. But I think what we got was pretty good, especially with Genesis at the end. The great thing about this log is that it's the big conclusion to every single thing that has happened thus far. It is the part 2 to Sal's fight with Allium after he goes Super Saiyan, and Allium's like, he's a real challenge. Let me show you how real it fucking gets. And so it's a pretty big brawl. It's a lot more even now, and I do believe that Sal gets a lot of licks in onto Allium and beats him up a little bit now that they're on an even playing field. The big thing about this log is that Sal wanted to use his ship his ship's laser, and then hit Allium with it and blast him to smithereens. And it happens. Allium is led further and further away. They're led into like an open space, an open air, and the laser is kind of shot upwards towards Genesis, who's there. Genesis arrived, and his goal is to basically deflect that shit back onto Allium without hurting anyone on the ship. And Allium gets fucking blasted to space, kind of like what happened with Makona was his name? I think his name, well, it wasn't Makona, I think that's the city. Well, you know what I'm talking about if you were to read past stuff with Nigmus. But this is besides the point. I really think this log was up there with the rest of them, although I think the one with Ariel is my favorite overall. If I were to give them all a ranking, and I'm not including the epilogue with this, let me actually go back really quick. You can probably see this on the screen. I think if I were to order these from 1 to 6, or 1 to 7 technically, it would be... Now let me actually rank these for you. Number 1 would be Clash of Titans. Number 2 would be Descent of Hell. Number 3 would be Clear the Skies. Number 4 would be The Emerging Star. Number 5 would be Sunspot. Number 6 would be Where Rage Drives You, and we're not going to count the part 1 because that's kind of honestly, I should just say prologue. And that's not saying the quality of these logs are bad. I like them all, but in fact, it's just the fact that I like some of these more than the others in that of the material written. And I do think Clear the Skies is better than Where Rage Drives You. Rage Drives You was basically a start log, and that's fine. It was great. I loved it. Again, I loved all of them, but I think Clear the Skies was just better. You know what I mean? I think that Sal did great. I think Sal did what he was supposed to do, and I loved it. I loved everything about this log. If I had to say, I think I wish there was a longer brawl. I kind of wish they fought way more than they did in this log. It was kind of just leading up to the events of Allium getting blasted to smithereens with Genesis' support. But it's fine. Like we even talked about this. I was like, Sally, like the only thing I wish we did was there was a longer fight. He's like, yeah, true, but it didn't take away that many points for me. Like giving points out for this log to Sal. I think that he did very excellent. That he did things great. And that he really showed off his Super Saiyan prowess here. And as I mentioned before, that he's had his transformation of ruby eyes. Again, not my preference. I don't like that personally, but again, not my place to really say you can't do that. I mean, I guess technically I could. I'm an RP admin. I'm on the RPC. I could say you can't do that, but that's kind of a dickish move, and I think it should be allowed, even if I don't personally like it. Sometimes that's the case, and that's totally okay. But again, not for me. But other than that, I think he really showed off what his Super Saiyan powers can do, and how he does them, and how he uses them, and how in control he felt. Even though, like, the whole point is he wasn't in control. He was very angry, but there was a what's the word I'm looking for? There is a piece that there was like a unity in his eyes in how he did things, and I think that was maybe not, I don't know if that was in your intention. I don't know if that was your intention or not, but that's how it came across to me, and it was really good. And I think I left Allium going to space on purpose instead of him turning to ash, because there's some other stuff that could happen that I'm not going to go into. It's more of Nigmus' territory for that sort of thing. But I did that on purpose to see what Nigmus could do with that using you know who. But that's for another time, another place, another arc, possibly. And with people getting busier and busier, and I know Sal's expecting in January, it's unlikely to happen anytime soon. And again, I'm not saying this as a way to demean Sal. Everyone that gets busy, you know, he's having a kid. Of course he's gonna be fucking busy. I know, Sal, we don't always see eye to eye and everything, and we do have petty arguments sometimes. But I really appreciate you, man. You're a really good dude. And despite shit in the past and miscommunication and your anger towards me at times, I'm really proud of you. I'm really happy for you, and I want to see more of you. And you're one of the best fucking people I know. And that's not, I'm not saying that lightly. And I don't know, man. You're a great man. You're a great guy, and I wish you the best. And I know this isn't the end of the video, but I just gotta say that to Sal, man. I don't say that enough. And maybe that's because people don't say it to me too often. I'm not complaining, but I feel the need to say that right now to Sal. I just want to congratulate him for the kid and everything. And I know this is getting a little off topic, but I just wanted to say thank you, man, for being around, for being part of this community, and giving us something great. 2 great logs here. With where Rage Drives You and Clear the Skies, and I guess Sunspot, but I'm not going to count that with, I'm talking about you-centric logs, not stick-centric logs, and I really appreciate it. That's it for this review. Thank you. See you on the finale. The prologue, I mean. This is Bidding Farewell with Mastroma, Saliath, and Veden. This log was optional. This log was unnecessary, and I could have done things in here separately away from this log, on a different log, but I'm glad we got this done. Everyone had different schedules, and it was hard to get this together, but I'm really glad we did. I wish Nigmus could have been here for this. I think they would have been a little bit more interesting if he was there. Nigmus always makes things more interesting. I'm sorry that I'm a Nigmus glazer, guys. I'm glazing Nigmus. I'm sorry! I'm sorry! Anyways, this log is both a sad one and a great one. Sad because this is the farewell for multiple characters. Well, more specifically, it's the farewell for Ariel, but it's also the farewell of the arc. A really long-running arc. Ariel's kind of sitting by herself, preparing to leave, and she was going to leave a letter for everyone, but ends up getting confronted, talking about how she's going to disappear, basically not come back ever again. And I talked about this in Ariel's log, Descent of Hell, and I'm not going to repeat myself here. I think I said what I could say about Ariel in that regard. However, it's very melancholy. It's exactly what I was expecting when going into this as partial narrator. I mean, I was playing the Pyro Archon, which gets introduced a little bit later. The Pyro Archon dubs herself as Rin. She is the counterpart to the Cryo Archon, who doesn't have an actual name. She called herself Rin, and the Cryo Archon was just a Cryo Archon. He didn't give himself a name. But I'll get into that in a second. Mastroma's here. He's wounded. Something I failed to mention with the Mastroma log is that Mastroma tied, basically. Like, he beat Lelia, but he too was not able to get back up. He was unconscious. And we kind of skip over like how everyone's collected. It would have been a pain in the ass. We kind of just assumed everyone was taken back by personnel and put into the emergency room or medical room. And this includes Mac, by the way, whose fate is still kind of unknown. We don't know if Mac is alive or not. Sal has not shown that off in RP. That's up to him to decide if Mac is alive or dead. I left it up to him because it was kind of ambiguous in nature, and that was kind of on purpose. Now, Rin here, I think is the most interesting, and maybe that's me glazing myself, but I think this Rin was someone I wanted to introduce immediately, but she's been in the back of my mind, backlog, whatever you want to say, for months and months and months. I have been talking about her as vague as possible, and the big thing about her, she is tier 4. And I don't mean that she's tier 2 and can transform into tier 4. I mean that she is tier 4. Now, she does have a transformation that she can use that will still keep her at tier 4, but that is separate and will just give her additional abilities. And the big thing here is, and I've been pretty open with this after introducing her, is that Ren's whole goal is to get the core. That the very same thing that started the arc was for her to grab the core. But she told Sal that she wasn't here to fight, and that the next time they would meet, that she would be taking the core from him, whether by force or as friends. And the core here is only going to make her tier 5, and not naturally tier 5. She'll have to transform to reach tier 5, but it will make her stronger. And as for the moment, she is not an ally and she's not an enemy. She is neutral. And the goal here is to use her as a foil to continue, not necessarily to continue the Luxoria conflict, because that's over. And this is like its own separate thing. It's to see whether or not Rin becomes a villain and becomes a very big threat, because she's very powerful. And that is on purpose. No one is meant to take her on. Like, I think she would probably beat Genesis. And I say this because she's one of those NPCs that is a raid boss. She is meant to be taken on by multiple people at the same time, even if she is tier 4 naturally, or when she transforms and gets additional abilities. She is meant to be fought by multiple people, and she would probably beat most people in a 1v1, even if she is on par in tier. But that's the great thing about NPCs, is that they can have stronger abilities and stronger things in nature and be more powerful even if they're at tier 4. This is the intention, because I want Rin to be kind of a mainstay a little bit and stick around for a while. And obviously Sal wanted a break from all this big combat heavy stuff and wants to do some lighter things. That's fine. I told him that Rin would not be coming back for a while in the narrative because she doesn't need to. Not yet. And when she does, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but that's not happening right now. Now let me get back to everybody else. Oh, actually, before I do that, I want to talk about Sal's reaction. Sal was like, I think he would be really amusing to give her the core, but not right now. And everyone was kind of reacting in a way that was expected. Miss Stroma was like, keep your hands away from Sal. And Rin's like, I could decimate you in 3 seconds. I could kill everybody on this ship if I wanted to. I could blow the ship up if I wanted to, and you couldn't stop me. I'm not here to fight. Anyways, going back to everybody else. They kind of give their farewells to Ariel because she, again, is leaving, and she is depressed and wants to disappear off the face of the universe and go away. And Sal and Stroma say their goodbyes, and it's very emotional. It's a very sad log. I guess it's melancholy. There's a lot of cool parts to it. Rin was one of those cool parts. I feel like I added a lot with her, but Ariel just left. Ariel wanted to go, and she originally didn't want to tell anyone, and I'm kind of glad that her character did end up telling them personally, face to face. And then she leaves near the end of the log, I think, or she might leave before. And then, oh yeah, so the other part of bidding farewell is Lilith. Lilith has her time to say goodbye. She is doing peace talks and talking about what happened, and is going back to the Luxoria family now that Allium is not there to be this dictator. And she's taking the head of the family by, well, not by force necessarily, because again, Lilith isn't ascended, but she's taking a political role in the family, taking over that side of things, because, well, who else is going to do it? The Luxoria family nature is ruined. Their reputation is gone. They started a war. The EDF got involved. People were being arrested, which wasn't necessarily alluded to, but there were dozens of arrests, maybe even hundreds. And the general I had there before, and the board is set, is also there, I believe. I mentioned him being there as a special guest, and everyone that knows that Lilith has not been involved with the war, and she's kind of taking that place and wants to talk about what to do forward, because the actions of the family were mostly from Allium being a manipulator and manipulating everyone to do what he wants. And of course there were dissenters, people who did not believe in the family itself, but with an overbearing amount of those people saying that it is true, you don't want to piss off those people in the family, because again, it's kind of like a mafia. You say the wrong thing, you do the wrong thing, you're gonna get punished, tortured, or maybe even killed. And not everyone in the Luxoria family is born in that family. They are taken in, kind of like, again, a mafia. And a lot of those people who were taken in do not want to spread that negativity that they think is negativity, or the truth, even if they don't fully believe the truth or believe the lies. They don't want to say anything that'll put them out of line, because the family is all about power and strength and honor in a weird like corrupted sort of way. And I'm glad we got the resolution we did. Like, Lilith hugs Sal, I believe, and she says she has to leave tomorrow. And I think, I haven't said this anywhere, and I think Sal and I kind of talked about it just a little bit jokingly, and I think that there is a little bit of romantic interest between Lilith and Sal, and maybe not Sal to Lilith, but Lilith to Sal. I think Lilith is in love with Sal. I don't think I said that a lot, but she's an NPC, and I figured, I thought about giving her to Sal, and it would have been really weird for him to RP Lilith as an NPC being in love with Sal, as he writes it himself. So I'm kind of taking her out of the picture and will continue to control her in the future if she is necessary or needed. But I think that I finally come out and say that I think Lilith likes Sal in a romantic way, and that's okay. She doesn't confess or anything. It's not in her nature to confess. She tries to be a strong person, and the last few logs or before the finale, she's kind of been in a weak place. You know, she was injured, she was kidnapped by Dov and taken away while they were gone, and Sal kind of rescued her from that ship, and she's kind of been injured ever since, but she's gotten a lot better now. And I don't know, I think it was kind of, I'm gassing myself up here, but I'm just saying that I'm just revealing now that Lilith is romantically interested in Sal. I can't really speak for other characters, though. Again, I have my own characters, and I can speak for them. But I think that there's more here that we could do that is not related to the conflict. I think there is a way to build that back up with Sal and the others and discuss the future of the family and do more with the family and talk about those survivors and how those survivors are doing and the leftover remains of those who are extremely loyal to Allium, like Stagni or Stagni, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that was a character created by Sal and Styx, and he's a really good character, but I think there's room for him to do some leftover shenanigans, possibly. So I can only hope to see what happens in the future. I might be playing Stagni for a log eventually, I don't know. I think that's all I gotta say, right? Like, Ariel leaves. I guess I can read the news report that I wrote up. Good evening, Pepper City. This is Channel 5 Pepper City News with a detailed update on today's intense battle that occurred just beyond the outskirts of the city. But Pepper City was not the direct target. Several powerful explosions sent shockwaves to the city, causing buildings to tremble and alarm many residents. The battle in the outskirts has left deep scars, with current reports estimating 942 fatalities and more than 2,000 injured. Authorities are still working to clarify the exact breakdown of casualties between sides, both Pepper City's forces, and I spelled cities wrong, or maybe I just forgot the apostrophe. Both Pepper City's forces and the Earth Defense Force fought valiantly united in their defense. Both Pepper City forces and the Earth Defense Force fought valiantly united in their defense. However, what remains unclear is how many of the dead or injured might have been aligned with the Luxoria family. This conflict spurred by divisions over support for the disgraced Luxoria leader, Allium, has drawn harsh lines between those loyal to the family and those seeking to distance themselves from its controversial actions. In a significant development, the remaining members of the Luxoria family have dispatched a delegate to engage in discussions about the future of their house. The delegate will attempt to dissociate the family from Allium's legacy, publicly renouncing his recent actions. This marks a critical moment for the Luxoria family as they seek to rebuild their reputation and avoid further fallout. The city, recognizing the sensitivity of the situation, has organized tight security for these talks and military personnel stationed to ensure the safety of all parties involved. Adding further weight to these proceedings, General Sterling of the EDF will attend the discussions. As a central figure in the ongoing defense efforts, Sterling is expected to address the public regarding future military strategies, aiming at fortifying Pepper City's defenses. He is also expected to formally denounce the Luxoria family's leader and those who continue to support him. General Sterling's remarks will likely underscore the need for stronger security measures in the face of ongoing threats, but he will also lay out plans for reinforcing unity among Pepper City and the EDF. These talks could play a pivotal role in deciding the fate of not only the Luxoria family, but also the broader alliances and political landscape. It remains to be seen how this division will play out, especially as a number of those loyal to the Luxoria family continues to dwindle. Citizens of Pepper City are advised to stay alert as security measures intensify and tensions remain high. Stay tuned to Channel 5 Pepper City News for the latest update. We will continue to bring you real-time reports as the situation develops. Yeah, that took me forever to write. I believe I had this ready beforehand, but I remember spending a really long time on this, and I'm really proud of the outcome. But that's about all I have to say. This one is 15 minutes as of recording, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Good job to everyone involved. I'm proud of everyone, and I don't know. It's really interesting to see the end of a long arc like this, because it was a long time coming, and I think the end result's worth it. But that's it. That's the review for every single log, and I'm signing off. Thank you, and goodbye.
A 77-inch square window.